This is J.E.T.Sense.
Yeah. What up? Welcome back. We are at, I want to say, this is going to be the second segment. I'm going to call it part two, sequel, whatever you want to call it. But I had to bring my man D back so we can, swing back around to this whole thing that we ended the last podcast on with the Sisterhood, which we will get into today. But hopefully everybody is in good spirits, sending positive and healing energy to anybody listening to this, in hopes that you may share this episode on your timeline with your friends, or just play it enough times and do ratings too on iTunes. Do us a big favor and just click those stars for us. Hopefully 5, damn it, hopefully 5 stars on it. But just give us your honest rating, or give me your fake rating and give me that 5. Help out the algorithm a little bit. But got D back. Yo, D, say what's up, man.
What's up, everybody? I'm back at it again. Enjoyed the conversation we had the other night. Had to come right back to it. Hope y'all having an amazing day.
Yes indeed. So like we were saying before we started recording, I do not care for how Brandy is being spoken upon. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not pulling Orion Clark defending, women type shit. It's just about the fact that she's human. And like, why are we speaking on her? Especially the fact that she recently just got a star, which is dope. I mean, Brandy was, came out. She started out with not Moesha, but Thea. You remember her being, Thea's daughter on the TV show on BET, or it might have been ABC. But I just remember the reruns being on BET a lot. And then she got, she would sing on the show, and then it showed that, Brandy was coming out as a single artist, and I Want to Be Down came out, and that shit was everywhere. I could tell you that as a what was that? Is that 94? Yeah, 94, 95, 9 and 10 years old. That song was everywhere on the radio, especially on hip hop and R&B stations. And then to come into her own, hanging out with Kobe, hanging out with Wanye, and then she did the Cinderella joint. She got the, and of course Moesha, and then all them other shit like them sad ass horror movies. She was in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and she's got a couple things under her belt. So I believe a well-earned star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. But I really wanted to kind of touch with D about this whole thing where I was listening to, Wanye from Breakfast Club, and they were talking about, because they were trying to say that he was like almost like some Tyga shit with Kylie, whatever the girl named Kylie Jenner or whatever, where he was like so many years older. But he was like, nah, he wasn't that much older than her, is what he was implying. And
no, Tiger was like 25.
Yeah, Tiger was 25, and I want to say Wanye's born in 71.
Okay.
But Wanye he was just on Breakfast Club, and they were just talking about how the difference in age. And he was like, no, she was old enough to get it, and I'm like, wow.
She was 14.
I mean, I think she was. I think that when she went to the prom with him, she was 17. She was 17, so that puts him at like 21. But even still, man, just speaking, like, Cat's been talking reckless. Like, I mean, I understand Ray J. I just don't approve of anything Ray J does, as far as how he does it, man. He's just, no decorum with him, and that's the thing I guess we love about Ray J, is the fact that, you're going to get some viral moment. You're going to get a viral moment out of Ray J when he talks about that shit. But I guess they were talking about, Shine and Mace, they were dating Brandy at the same time or some shit. I believe that's what they were talking about. And then Ray J was kind of like, that's some sucker shit to kind of speak on it. I didn't really get to hear the full gist of it, but I know that as far as Wanye goes on the Breakfast Club, I was just like, y'all, you didn't have to put it out that way. I mean, it's understandable that, y'all, all right, y'all had sex. Like apparently Brandy dated, and that's just according to what they were saying, Shine and Mace were dating her at the same time, or something like that. But it's just how they would speak, just speaking about her. And she got all these damn accolades coming up, and and you know what I'm saying, it's bringing her personal business into the thing. I mean, granted, I get it. They're entertainers, celebrities, and all that shit. But I just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that whole kiss and tell shit. Especially you got a well-known name and shit. You know what I mean? It's just it's catty, as as Dame Dash would say to me. I believe that's catty, and definitely I find it to be catty what Wanye said on the Breakfast Club when he was like, she was old enough to get it. And they laughing about pretty much fucking Brandy and shit, and it's like have some, have a little bit of decorum. I think
Exactly.
that was just my, essentially my thoughts on the Brandy thing. I'm not sure how much you knew about Brandy and what has been said recently. Like I said, it's much to do about nothing news, but I think it's more so just about being human and be like, yo, yeah, okay, we did something, but we don't got to tell every damn body.
Yeah, man, I 1000% agree, man. Like, especially as grown men, and considering the fact that he's speaking on something that happened almost a relationship from almost 30
30.
years ago at this point.
Yeah, 30 years.
Like, really think about that. So you mean to tell me it's 30 years later, Wanye got to be pushing 60, and this is what you came to talk about? And like you said, the timing of it, when Brandon's about to, get a star, it's not cool. I mean, but even just on the sense of like, if they were to have this conversation privately, hey, we can't stop that. That's between them,
Yeah.
you know. But to do it publicly, it, like you said, she's human at the same time. And when none of us want anybody to talk about our daughters, nieces, aunties, or mothers like that in public either.
Of course.
So it's, you know what I'm saying? So it's tasteless.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't much of a fan of what I heard, but at the same time, that's kind of like what the content usually brings. When I listen to the Breakfast Club, and no, like I said, no shade or anything like that, but that's just kind of like what it panders to. It panders to drama, and putting that out there. And I like to check them on YouTube, even though they removed all, like, most of their long interviews are now mainly on Netflix, which is good for them from a business standpoint. I normally check Breakfast Club on YouTube to see, like, if somebody died or if there's like a new album release. Like, they talked about Kanye's Bully album, and I hadn't had a chance to listen to it all the way through yet, but I just kind of skimmed through it. But from what I heard, it's nothing I would consider myself playing every day. But I mean, it's cool Kanye's making music again, man. Because I said I have a soft spot for early days of Kanye as a young producer. That was an aspiring producer listening to College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation. I was definitely influenced by this man's work, and yeah, very inspired to work with samples, listen to the stuff that we love to listen to as we talk about the '70s funk and soul shit all the time. That's where he pulled a lot from. He was able to kind of do that. But yeah, Mar, let's go and tap into that one joint you sent me, man. About this young lady on young girl. She has to be early 20s, I imagine, just by how she sounds and even how she looks in the face and stuff like that. But as far as like women dating for money, and I wanted you to give your take as far as what you got from it.
Well, she started out by saying, and I sent it to you because based on the conversation that we had the other night, or how we ended.
Yeah.
And I thought this is perfect to some extent.
Yeah.
Because this is the way that she was speaking was I tend to find that to be, it's starting to become the overall disposition for women.
Right.
Basically what she was saying was that she started out by saying that, it's invalid for men to ask the question of what does a woman bring to the table. So, but it's valid for a woman to ask that question because I think she said something along the lines of like, because the man would be the one providing for, the wife, or the wife, and the kid, because the woman is carrying the kid and and stuff like that. So a man shouldn't ask that question when, all a man is doing is just going to work every day and just going to work every day for a check while the woman is at home doing all the cooking, all the cleaning and everything else. So asking for a 50-50, which I hate to go into this too, but this is what she said. Going, a man asking for going 50-50 while expecting her to do this and do all that at the house is just invalid for a man to ask the question of what do you bring to the table. And now that was the first half of the video.
Right.
Me personally, I saw that and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, no. Actually, it was one more part that I got to add into it. I'm sorry. Now that I'm thinking about it, she said something like, men, little boys aren't really raised to learn how to nurture or look after or take care of other people. Boys are given, even little boys are given toys to where,
Yeah, I know.
Everything is
Yeah,
about their
that part.
interests.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Everything is about their interest. And, while women, they get baby dolls and things of that nature. So they're taught to be nurturing and, yada, yada, and so forth. So I looked at everything that she said in that first half in relation to that before she went and talking about her ex-boyfriend. And I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, that the way that the male experience is minimized through the sisterhood.
Yeah.
Now, and is it shows to why we have the results that we have today. Because if you think that, number one, a man telling a man that it's invalid for him to simply ask, what do you bring to the table? Is not, I've always wanted to know, why does that bother them so much? Because that's almost like telling a man that I can't vet you, that I have to just be okay with you just
as you are
coming and present.
Yeah,
exactly, just coming as you are.
Yep.
And I should just put all my chips on the table for you.
Yeah.
Without vetting you at all. And with men asking that question, is it simply saying like, okay, well, here, I have this table here, or basically we coming to the table, because dating, there are negotiations to it, or it should be, some type of negotiations. You dig what I'm saying? So if I'm expected to do all these things, I wouldn't, even as a woman from your position, from a woman's position, I wouldn't think that a woman would want to do a whole bunch of things for somebody that's not even willing to reciprocate. So that's basically what that question is like, how can you reciprocate to the situation? What can you bring to this situation to where we can continue to grow throughout, relationship, marriage, whatever. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, but kind of back to the whole point of also just all a man is doing is just going to work and coming home and paying the bills. And it's just like in 2026, with the economy the way that it is, and this is what women are saying, and well, not all women, for sure, of course not, because I know there are some that understand that paying the bills is a lot, but to think that that's nothing, and that's all that a man is doing, especially at a time now with this generation, our generation, millennials, and millennial men, maybe even late Gen X and younger. We're not our granddads. Most of us were raised to cook and clean well enough to survive for ourselves.
Right.
With that said, the average man does not need a woman for that anymore. However, if, and I can only speak for myself, if I'm doing all this, if I'm the one that's going to work every day, I'm having to leave the house to go into environments that I can't control. Leave my own house to go bring the bacon back home to make sure we have a roof, have food, have all these things. And you saying that that's nothing compared to you cooking and cleaning all day? Which once again, keep in mind, it's 2026. Everything's automated. We have air fryers now.
Yeah.
DoorDash. Most people are doing that now. Everybody ain't cooking full meals from scratch no more. That's not a thing, at least in America. And then on top of that, you're not cleaning all day. No, and I can speak from the experience. I've done the stay at home thing for at least a few months with children. Not one time did I ever sit there and feel like, man, being at home is a lot harder than being out at work. I mean, outside of the fact that I missed being at work just simply for making the money at the time.
Yeah.
This is after I was on Rogers, but because for like a couple of months I wasn't working.
Right.
But never one time did I ever sit there and like think that it was just so difficult because I wasn't cleaning all day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sitting here saying that to say that it's not. How can I put it? Like there isn't any difficulty to it because I can understand just sitting in the house all the time can become mentally draining. I get it, but there's no need to minimize the breadwinner
Right. Yeah.
keeping the roof over everyone's head to boost what you're doing from your position.
Yeah.
Everybody has a role. Everybody has a role.
I mean, you and Tef are Stunt. You and Stunt love to quote Charleston White, and a brilliant quote by him is that a man is not appreciated until he is gone, whether that be out of her life or dead. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes because of so much entitlement, because of so many opportunities that are given in life in America, that is. Now, granted, life outside of America isn't as luxurious as far as that, especially for that of a woman. I'm not saying for a woman she should be grateful because that's just not. I don't believe that's just the proper way of treating people in general, let alone women. And if anybody knows their history as far as like how women are treated in other countries, you know, some of them don't even speak to them. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't even give them a voice to have a voice. And women have a lot to offer, just as much as men have a lot to offer. And the thing is, it's not about one is better than the other, right? We might be stronger at something, but it doesn't necessarily make me better, you know? And because again, as we talked about in the last episode, it is more of a yin and yang thing. There's a puzzle piece, and it is all about finding what piece of the puzzle matches with yours. And for you as a man, finding that piece of the puzzle that allows you to fucking lead. That's number one, because there's no point, and I stand by this statement. I've said it many times on many of the YouTube shows, but I stand by the statement. There is no point for a woman to be in a relationship with a man if she's going to lead the relationship. There's no point.
Or compete.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it becomes. If you sitting there fighting for position, there's no room for two quarterbacks, man. We both can't hike. We both can't hike the ball. That's not going to work. Somebody got to give a call. Somebody got to follow. Now, the thing is finding a man that's okay with following. Some men are okay with that. Some men are okay with women, pulling the blunt of the work and all that stuff. And hey, that's what my wife tell me to do type thing. But then you got to deal with the resentment later on from her. You know what I mean? The fact that it's, I shouldn't have to do all these things. I'm doing everything and you don't do shit, but come home, play your fucking video game and try to fuck me. Whatever, the statement may be, but that's the frustration. And it's warranted because I don't believe you were designed to do that. I don't believe you were designed to take on the blunt of that work. That was meant for us to do that. And just naturally, when we are in our masculine, trying to provide, trying to protect, trying to lead, we feel natural at that. Like I'm okay with, putting that shit on me. But if I'm going to have this shit on me, but I'm not going to have any authority, that's slavery. You know what I mean? Like, I look at that as slavery. So I'm going to have all the responsibilities, but I'm not going to have any authority. Imagine that. Imagine you as a woman, your kids doing whatever the fuck they want to do, but then they come to you expecting you to have so much. Well, you're responsible for me. And I'm not comparing a woman to a kid. I'm comparing responsibility and authority. If you don't have a say-so, and because your whole point of looking after them is to care for their well-being, to look for the things that they don't see. You know what I'm saying? That's essentially what that is. To me, that's a man's role in a relationship, in dating, situationships, marriage, side pieces, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Your objective is to ensure her safety, ensure that she feels safe, to share her honest thoughts with you without being judged, to ensure she feels safe when she's out in public. You know what I'm saying? And the only thing, and like I said, I say all the time, the only requirement that I'm not necessarily asking, but looking for in said woman is to be feminine, to trust a man to lead, to value men, be nurturing, and and definitely show emotional support. Everything else can be covered. You know what I'm saying? That's what furnishing this dream is about. Is furnishing the purpose is going to take care of all this any other shit that you may have an interest for. That's what all that shit is. Only thing just looking for is for you to you to support that, you to be nurturing, you to trust a man to lead, and that's it, man. Just know how to value men. Don't try to compete with them. You know what I mean? You got advice? Learn your delivery. That's all I'm gonna say. Your delivery matters. As far as like when you talking to somebody, you don't just get to let's say we just show up and talk to the president. You can't just say anything you want to say to the fucking president.
Nope.
There's a certain way you have to ask him in interviews. Now, granted, our current
If
president
you don't
might.
like our current one,
Yeah, now granted, our current president might say some slick shit, but that's not the best example. You know what I mean? But in previous times, there was a certain way that the president would talk to you. Now our president just says the first thing that comes out of his mouth, and
hello.
that just is what it is. So I'm not gonna say that this is the way to do it. But as far as everybody else who has been presidential, it's all about how you carried yourself. Now let's get into what you kind of mentioned about like some kind of negotiating. One of my other favorite lines from The Manosphere by Myron from Fresh and Fit: "We do not negotiate with terrorists." Okay, understand this. I lead, you follow. That is it. Now that's not like some dictatorship where I don't take into consideration the things that you want to do. The whole point of us communicating through text and on the phone is for me to learn how to love your ass. So once I go out here, focus on my purpose, then I can come back, and you know what? I'm able to cater to said emotions that you have. I can take into consideration the things that you like to do, and all you have to do is love me. Is that hard? Is that a tough gig to have? You know what I'm saying? And there's certain things that, I mean, every man is different, but you have to decide what your boundaries are going to be. What's going to be permissible, and from a woman, and what's not going to be permissible. And women respect boundaries. You just have to get them. But as we'll get into later with the beta tails things, if you don't have boundaries and you're just afraid to lose a woman, and like you're afraid to lose yourself because you put your value into a woman, you're going to allow certain shit to go down that you normally wouldn't go down. That you might even, like, if your mom or somebody in the family saw her doing this shit, their family might say something to you, and you'll feel somewhat like embarrassed about that. But that's what I'm saying. It's learning to, like I said, to find those bounds, to learning to love yourself. I promise you, when you start loving yourself, you won't let anybody else disrespect you ever again. Dead ass. It won't happen. You will not allow, what I'm saying, that to happen to you. But getting back into this young lady's stuff, like I said, she's young. Very, she's very, you can just tell the immaturity. I get some of the stuff that she's saying, though. I mean, as far as like the social programming with boys are given toy trucks, and girls are given Barbie dolls and shit like that. Yeah, I get all of that. But as far as like, what you bring to the table, you are wanting to enter a man's frame. That is where your protection and covering comes from. A man going into your frame, he's going to be looking to you for that. So all I'm saying is, if there's a bump in the night, if somebody breaks in, are you going to be the one to go and check? Or am I going to be the one to go and check and see what the fuck is going on? Which one would you be okay with? Are we equals?
Yep.
That's the question we're going to have to ask. Are we equals at that point? Would you be okay with me? All right, baby, check it out. I'm be in the bed. You know, no, no. That's what I'm talking about. That frame, and that is just something that is a risk that we have to take and understand as men, that we're gonna have to be the ones to risk that. So she's talking about, what do men bring to the table? What all we do? We go to work. Yeah, I want you to know how you're going to cook and clean without any electricity. You tell me how it works.
In 2026.
No, you know what I'm saying? And that's not to say that you owe me anything because of that. It's just This is just how we play our role in this game of life. I'm required to go out and do. I mean, it's nothing has changed. I mean, they've updated, some of the stuff, and it's been modernized. But the hunter gatherer and in agriculture it's been going on since the early days of time. The caveman days, where the men went out and hunted. Now women are out hunting with us, but we got more once agriculture was born. I mean, agriculture was established, and then the woman was able to stay at the house so that we could have more than just one or two kids. You can have larger families. This is collegiate information being backed up by statistics that once we had agriculture, we were able to have somebody go out and hunt, and that's what the man would do. The man would go out and hunt, and then the woman gets to stay home and grow the crops and shit, and also gets to look after the family, right? So today's society has it to where women are able to work and stuff. But are women happier with their careers, or would they be happier with families? You have to ask that woman. I firmly believe that a woman would be happier. I'm not a woman to say, but just off conversations I've had with some women, at they're looking for a family unit. You know what I'm saying? A family environment. That whole thing of getting up, getting the joy of working. Yeah, that's more. I think that's more of a man's joy. And that, don't get me wrong, there are some women that do love to work, workaholics and shit like that. But that feeling of having a family, that's where a woman gets to be comfortable in her feminine. A man gets to be, he gets to live in his masculine because he's going out and doing that work, that very same work that she's talking about, that she's implying it really means nothing. But I mean, she's young, so I have grace with her with what I heard, but I also get the whole thing of like, what do you bring to the table? Because let's be honest, man, our young boys are being emasculated. You know what I'm saying? We're commonly raised in households by single moms, and we're picking up the traits of the parent that we're around the most. So if you've never got to see a man, if you never got to be around one, then what do you expect to happen? And that's for all of us to think about. But yeah, I get what she was saying as far as like what do men like bring to the table because of how men are brought up these days, and that's essentially soy boys as they call it. Where you're just there's no you don't have a masculine male presence around. And as far as like how we carry ourselves, we look to our women to be our mother, and we don't know how to lead. We don't know how to step up and do these certain things. So and when you have women that are pretty much taught to do everything, because you might get a man that don't know how to do anything, which is, I think, is a toxic way of raising a kid, but that's also survival at that point in time. So now you have a generation of girls who are growing up believing that men don't know how to do shit, and that's why they speak the way they speak, just like that young lady did. And then you have and you got guys that are literally trying to make that change. Because I would say essentially, I grew up like a soy boy in a sense, and I had to learn masculinity once I became an adult through trial and error, and now trying to lead a woman who is so used to leading, it's uncomfortable for her, and she feels like you're attacking her when you're really just trying to protect her. You know what I mean? And it gets exhausting. It gets exhausting, and after a while, you're like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this shit no more. I'm not going to continuously. I'm not going to fight you like you talked about competition. I'm not going to compete with you. Only one of us is going to lead this relationship, and you got to decide which one that's going to be. Are you going to be comfortable with me leading, or would you prefer to do it and have resentment later on? That's a question that's going to have to be asked. And because I understand what it's going to take for me to lead now, I just need to know if you're up for it. Because when I do it, there's not going to be any resentment, okay? But if you do it and you just start doing everything, and I get comfortable with you doing everything, and then I just wait for you to do shit, you're going to be pissed off. Attraction is going to die. And if attraction dies, where's the love? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what keeps the love burning. Don't get me wrong. There might come a time where there is like I'll say a freak accident, and there will be no more intimacy, like of a traditional sense. And then, yeah, you'll see how a person really loves you. However, until that situation comes about, we're killing attraction we have identity crisis in a sense. You have men that are operating in their feminine, and women tending to operate in their masculine, and wondering why they're not attracted to one another, because The roles are fucking reversed. And it's understanding what that role is going to be. And you have to decide if you're going to be, you're going to operate in your masculine every day, or, and just for a woman, if you're going to operate in your feminine every day. Now, for women, because of today's society has more women in the workforce than definitely any other time in previous years, going back, let's say 30 to 40 years, there comes a time where their masculine energy is going to save them when they're at work, especially. And depending on what career field you're into, having masculine energy is going to save you, because they will try to, people, there's a lot of snakes at the job, and they will see kindness as weakness, and then they will pounce on your ass. So I understand a woman having to defend herself in a work situation. And then same thing with parenting. You know what I'm saying? When you have to parent your kids, there may be a time where you do have to operate in your masculine with your kids. However, when you are getting in that parking lot and you are about to head home to whatever man of interest, I need you to turn that shit all the way the fuck off. You're going to have to train yourself to use your feminine energy when you're talking to a person that has been worthy and earned that feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying for you to start with your masculine energy, because that's not going to be attractive. I'm saying that if you're going out dating, and you're going to the club with your girls, and you got that resting bitch face on, you're going to attract the leech. The guy that's about his business and his purpose is not looking for a bitch with the resting bitch face on. You're going to end up with someone that's not the best for you. You know what I mean? It's going to seem all good at first for whatever reason, and after a while, you're going to see why that attraction happened. And it's about breaking those cycles. So to close out with the young lady, I just believe she's young, and I was just questioning when she was talking about her ex-boyfriend, and she's naming all the great things that he did, and I'm like, well, why is he the ex-boyfriend then? You know what I'm saying?
Why are we having this conversation?
Yeah, exactly. You're speaking on these guys that what they bring to the table, but you're pretty much bigging up your ex-boyfriend because he was and he was soft with you. He had money, he led gently and all this other shit. But I digress, man. I digress. So last episode, D, we touched on it. You mentioned it. Man. Sisterhood, and it was a trigger for me. But nevertheless, I want to talk about that whole concept of the sisterhood. Now, the sisterhood that I'm referring to is more so the toxic set of female energy that when they see their friend, family member, whoever, daughter, they see them in something that is actually beneficial for them, but because they've never had anything that beneficial in their life, they will sabotage that shit because misery loves company. They will start to plant seeds inside that person's head that will make them look at their person of interest differently, which then makes them want to separate themselves from the pack and no longer be with that individual anymore. And then before you know it, they're all back out at the clubs or shit, you know what I'm saying, trying to find more toxic men when she had somebody that was actually of benefit in her life. But she listened to the sisterhood, which caused ruckus, no pun intended, Ruck, and in her life, you know what I mean, and into her life. So, and that's what I mean by like the sisterhood. They have something negative. You can just tell by how they speak about men, just in general. You know what I mean? Like, I love a woman that appreciates men, even if she's not with one, who speaks I would say highly of men, not so much tears them down. Men ain't shit. Men, tearing men down, and those type of things. Like, it's to be very mindful of of men, women who speak like that. So, but I wanted to get your thoughts on like that type of sisterhood, D. Just on that principle alone.
I would implore, especially women that are in marriages or they have children, or even women that have children, but they may be dating someone that if you really can sit with yourself, take the delusion out, take the feelings out, and pay attention to everything, every dynamic of your relationship. Weigh out the pros, hell, weigh out the cons even if you have to, before you start listening to your friends. Because 9 times out of 10, that man that you have is well, I'm not gonna say 9 times out of 10. Let me take that back. I'm sorry. But if you can sit with yourself and say that, like as you said, this man is a benefit to my life. Don't sit here and think that it's just a foregone conclusion that you're gonna find somebody else that's gonna come in his place and you can just plug and play and things are going to be the same. That's not always the case. Actually, more times than not is not the case. It's just, and you'll allow that sisterhood to sit there and push you away from this man when the whole time on the other end, one of them may end up trying to get with them themselves.
Yep.
Or minus that, they might just be jealous of what you have because they don't have it. You know, it kind of it does also go back to this whole thing of unless the man is beating on you or is a danger to you in some type of way,
Yeah.
there's no need for your relationship to be out in the public like that. Now, I'm not saying like, don't be, don't show love to each other publicly or nothing like that. But I'm saying to the point where you're putting your business out,
Right.
like how it's just so common now to do. And I even when things are good, I'm 35 now. I've been saying probably since I was about 20 or 21 years old, my first like real relationship, like, hey, don't be out here telling your friends this, and this,
Yeah.
like even the good, because I don't think you realize that they giving me certain looks.
Yep. For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mom,
so
bitches is evil, bro. Motherfucker, evil.
They giving me looks.
They don't give a fuck, man. They don't give a fuck, yo. Like I said, it's real. It's definitely, like I said, it's definitely real with like, it comes to that. And I don't believe it's called having a public life. I believe it's called having a private life. So if I'm going out and I'm just telling everything that I got going on, I'm inviting it to I'm inviting people into my home. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Instead of keeping everything private. Because people look for things to sabotage, because most people are unhappy, and you got to be very, very careful when you go around unhappy people with your happy ass. You know what I mean? You got to be very, very mindful when you talk about all the great things the person's doing for you when they want what you want. And they will do, and some people do just about anything to get what you have. They believe it's that great. Now, it's all perception based, but if you look like you have something of value, people are coming to get it. If I, let's just say I had my garage door open and I had a bag and it said $1 million, and cars drove by and there's a sign that said $1 million on it. Do you think they're going to just drive past, or you think they're going to be plotting on my ass? That's what it
Somebody
is.
definitely gonna lie.
Yeah, when you have something of value, like, people are going to want to come after that. So what you must do is protect that. That's not about an insecurity. It's about protection. When you love something, you protect it. Point blank, period. When you love something, you protect it. You don't draw attention to it. I even take that to women who like to post provocative pictures online. Like, you want to be my woman, but you post these type of pictures drawing attention. What type of message are you sending? Do you think this is wife material by doing this? Do you think I want to be with a woman who is promoting herself out there online for the world to see and have? It's attention seeking behavior. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, is this what you really want to do? But getting back to the sisterhood, I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for having a support group when you're going through stuff. When you got women that are really about their business, like let's say you do have career women and stuff like that. They are out here, they're getting it at the job, they're working, they're studying, they're doing all these things to focus and build themselves, and also like get their money together, but also making themselves a marketable woman that is looking for trying to build a family with. You know what I mean? You got support groups like that, but the motherfuckers that just sit around and gossip all damn day and be on TikTok just talking shit in the comments and saying this bitch was she had on my dress in the club, like that shit is much ado about nothing news, and it don't got shit to do with nothing. You know what I mean?
You know,
Like you gotta decide what you're gonna focus on, man, and you gotta decide what's around you, what's in your diet. You know, find out what's in your diet. You know, as far as the things that you entertain, the stuff that you give access to, the energy that your power, your energy and your power. What are you giving that to daily, and what type of friends do you have around you? Are they trying to encourage you to be the best version of yourself, or are they trying to sabotage you silently? And once they find out what type of guy you're into, the fact that he's kind to you, he's protective of you, he's nurturing, he listens to you, all these things that a woman would certainly desire in a man, and you have it, you think you're not a threat now? Oh no, somebody's going to try you. It's only a matter of time. Somebody's going to try you. So if you love something, you got to protect it. You got to protect it. So what I'm saying is about the sisterhood that we're speaking on is the ones that are out for self. They're selfish. They hang in groups just so that they can mingle and get something they want, and then they move on to another herd to sabotage. But if you are fortunate as a woman to have like solid sisters in your corner that support you, that encourage you, that let's say you do go through a breakup, they're there to support you, and they're not there to down him, but they're just there to support you and get you back on your feet so that you can go out and attack the world and not invoke hate into the world by tearing down, fuck that guy, he never deserved you, or whatever, that statement you find to be encouraging to her at the point. But you just focus on the goal. You focus on moving forward. Those are the women that you want to have, and male friends too. Shit, those are the ones that you want to have in your. I would say I recommend having in your corner, versus that of like the sisterhood, who's the toxic form of sisterhood that is that sabotages when you have something great going on in your life. That's really what the point I wanted to drive home about the sisterhood. So yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. Mark, you had anything you wanted to add as far as else on the sisterhood?
I'll say this as well, ladies. Keep it really, especially millennial aged women and younger. Keep in mind that you have a lot of. Well, actually, let me backtrack. For the last 40 years, we've been the American society has been on this "I hate men, men ain't shit, we don't need a man" train. Pay attention to how a lot of Gen X women are starting to have trouble retiring because they didn't need a man.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say deal with someone abusing you. I'm not gonna sit here and say deal with somebody that's having extra children. I'm not saying all that. However, that's not always the case of why relationships end, why families end. That's not always the case, and we know that. So instead of sitting here and listening to your friends that's planting seeds in your head, and you keep them, that you are an adult, and I'm not saying it to be facetious. Is that
Right.
what I'm saying is that you understand your situation better than anybody. You feel me? But don't sit here and allow somebody to plant seeds in your mind about somebody that you have at home, or whether y'all don't live in the same house or not, who's actually helping, taking care of you, looking out for you, to put you in a position in where you 40, 50 something, 60 years old, and you don't even know how you're going to retire.
Right.
I'm seeing this with women in my family. I'm genuinely seeing this with damn near most women in my family, where they are struggling to retire because they didn't need a man. And I'm gonna say this last quick thing: that what really hit this mark for me, or maybe understand this, was about 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember what the conversation was about. I remember talking to my mom, and she was talking about, man, I can say a whole bunch of things about your dad and how he was, and this, that, and the third, and all this other stuff. Even though I've gotten older, and I can say there are two sides to every story.
Right.
But she's not wrong about how my father was. But even with everything, she was like, I, I didn't have to worry about your dad taking care of the bills. I didn't have to worry about your dad taking care of home. I didn't have to worry about none of these things. I just this shit hard now.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I fell back. I was like, out of out of all these things that you've said about him over the years, which, like I said, had some truth to it.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's all about survival. So, and and besides, my dad didn't make it easy, but I can sit back and remember how everybody was in my household, business wise. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like I said, my dad didn't do a good job of keeping it clean either. I can honestly say that.
Right.
However, after you done been with somebody for almost 20 years, why wait till you get to your 40s, late 30s, to want to split from them after you done had children with them? Like I said, keep in mind that you have to retire someday. You won't always be able to work. You never know what health crisis may come up, may stop you from working.
Yeah.
You may need that other person to help you survive until the end of time. And especially with the way that things are going now with this economy.
Yeah.
This shit is not a game
Well,
at all.
yeah. Well, I'll say this to your point. I appreciate you sharing all of that, bro. As far as like a woman, um, like essentially staying with somebody, like thinking about retirement, I would think that we just have to focus on a healthier form of dating. So you don't want to just say we just made it work, but you want to say I personally like just want to live your life. And I get it, the economy is it's going to be going through a change and shit, and what that means is your ass better learn financial literacy, male or
Yep.
female. Learn fucking financial literacy, because I'll be damned if I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna stay with somebody that I can't stand. You know what I'm saying? Because of like retirement, or trying to just trying to survive and shit like that. It's for some that might be an option. I don't recommend it. For me, like I said, for me personally, you know what I mean. To have that, but just figure out how to budget. Figure out how what financial literacy even means. A lot of us spend money very carelessly, that we can set aside and have ourselves together at a later point. Learn compounding. You know what I'm saying? I definitely recommend that people learn what the fuck it means to compounding, to save a certain amount of money each. You know what I'm saying? Each week, each every 2 weeks, each month. Every 2 months, whatever the goal is, so that over the course of so many years you have this thing set aside, and it's like bam, I'm good. You can kind of do that. I think Tony Robbins, I think, said if you're able to save $300 every, was it every month for 8 years or something like that, you have pretty much enough to kind of like retire on. But if you can afford that, to save 300, what I'm saying,
Exactly.
every month. But you also got to take the time to budget, to learn to do what what's my guy, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki says: pay yourself first. When you get paid, figure out, all right, you got your money for bills, figure out what you can actually save for yourself, and you just don't touch it. You know what I'm saying? You wait till the next month, you pay yourself first, and then you think about, your bills, as well as, your leisure shit. But at least you have something set aside that you're paying yourself. Are you working enough? Are you living below your means? Is the question. Learn how to, learn how to live below your means, so that you can afford to pay yourself. And some people get it, some people don't. But once you figure it out, though, it's a thing of beauty. That's what I can say, man. To have that stress relief, that that your bills are knocked out, that you got play money if you want to, but you're learning that you can live off of this particular income. Even if you do get like a increase in salary or whatever, you still know that you can live off of this amount of income. That means whatever you occur, past the that level of income can be more going to savings, or your rainy day fund. You know what I'm saying, having 6 months saved up, so that you can 6 months of rent saved up, or 6 months of mortgage saved up, just in case you get into some shit. You got something to kind of fall back on. But you got a lot of people out here saving up for phones, saving up for vacation, saving up for things that, I mean, moments is important. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to do a whole
Yeah.
bunch of working and just not have any moments. But when it comes down to being able to save, or a trip that's out of my budget, I think learning to save is going to enable you to have more of those trips out of that's right now is out of your budget. But it's all about how we focus on that. And in my opinion, that's just what I kind of see with that. But I wanted us to close out on talking about some beta tales, bro. I know I got a gang of them, man. As far as like what I wish I knew back then, and how I used to chase women, annoy them, if you will. You know what I mean? Like texting a girl pretty much all day, early 20s. You know what I'm saying? Texting a girl all day with no response, just trying to get her, what I'm saying, like attention, just to get that one attention. She go all day and then respond when she feel like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Short messages and shit, and you just take it because it's her, because you put her on this pedestal. She's more important than you. I think about, like those type of, like I said, them beta tales, man, and sitting there trying to win a woman's love back. The one thing I want my fellas to know is that you cannot negotiate genuine burning desire, bro. If that woman is running from, if you have to chase her, that means she's running from you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a woman a woman that's interested in you is going to let you know. She will find a way to let you know. I assure you. If she's really into you, she will find a way to let you know. But if she like just some time of you, back in them beta days, I used to deal with a lot of rescheduling for dates. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
just yeah, just not really paying much attention. It was like an interview, talking on the phone, a one-sided interview. Like she was yeah, she was so much into herself, too much into herself to be into anybody else. As we caught that one. Well, nobody was saying nothing that time. But what about you, Mark? What kind of beta tales you got?
You know what I can really think. I've had some of those similar situations, but I think that was more so like late high school and college years. But I think the main thing for me when it comes to that was, and I think, and I hope most men can understand what I'm about to say, is especially if you grew up in a single parent household. I did it, but I still grew up in a contentious household where I felt like I had to protect my mom a lot. Um, Putting yourself in a situation where you're playing Superman and not even realizing in some ways you're trying to save your mother through this woman that you love. And I think that's the issue that I had.
Right.
I ain't gonna say I think I went to therapy, and that's what I realized that's what it turned out to be. Basically, getting with women who have situations that's too much for your plate, too much for your palate. You
Captain
feel what
Save
I'm
a
saying?
Captain Save a Ho.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't even say not even always a hoe, but it's just
Nah, that's just the term. I don't mean she a hoe, whatever. But
yeah,
it's just the term. Captain Save a Ho is what the white knight, the white knight shit.
super
Yeah,
Superman.
exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue that I had. Trying to play Superman, trying to do too much, trying to be too accommodating, trying too hard to make them comfortable or make things easier for them.
The
So
ultimate
that's
nice
always
guy. Yeah, the ultimate nice
ex-
guy.
ex- exactly. And I realized like, nah, like I was trying to save my mother through them.
Yes, 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 for sure. I actually can relate to that too. Wanting to try to be everything to your mother, whether that be to get her validation, whether that be to save her, whatever it is, just to have that mindset like I'm going to be any and everything to the woman that I love. She's not gonna have to lift a finger. I'll take on all of that shit. Give me all your problems. I'll solve them. Yeah,
Yep.
Superman and fucking D. Yep, Superman. Yeah.
And you know what? From kind of going back to that experience, like I can literally remember being 11 years old, and I remember like one of the fights that one of the like fights that my parents had. And I remember telling my mama like, I'm not gonna be nothing like that when I become an adult.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't.
What?
I don't want to I literally remember telling her that at
Yeah.
11, like, I don't want to disappoint you,
Yeah.
So I realized that a lot of the things that I've done was still being trapped in 11-year-old me,
Yep.
getting in between the fights between my parents, literally fighting my dad behind my mom, shit like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So men, please pay attention if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, very much blue pill beta male things to say. That's really I remember thinking. I didn't say it out loud. I said it in my head, what you just said. As far as like I'm not going to be anything like him and shit like that. But you also
Yep.
have to understand what it is that women find to be attractive. You know what I mean? And now women are different. We're not going to group all women into one category, but there are similar traits that women tend to find to be more attractive in men who operate in their masculine than that of their feminine. I would definitely say that I was operating in my feminine in those early on relationships because I put all my worth into them. I made them responsible for my happiness. I needed their validation to know that I was doing it right, type thing. You know what I'm saying? And when you
Yep.
and just to use an analogy, when you fucking, you can't be looking down to see if you're doing it right. You just got to know how to fuck. And I would say that I kept looking down, when it comes to dealing with a woman. Like, hey, am I doing this right? I'm asking for shit, and I'm not just telling shit. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't leading. I was being very soft and passive, and that kills attraction in a woman. When you carry yourself in that soft, passive thing, that shit on TV. Don't everybody felt sorry for Sherman Klump, but they wanted to be with Buddy Love. You best believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might feel bad for Sherman, big ass, and all of that, but Buddy's confidence and the way he took charge on things, that's an attractive trait to have in that of a man. You know what I mean? And it's like and you hear women say all the time, "Oh, I feel so bad for Sherman" and all this other shit. But they ain't checking for no fucking Sherman. How many people you just seen walking around with big niggas like that? Soft. You don't see that quite
Nah.
often. That's not something that you're going after. Now, if you end up with that and they treat you right, by all means, love that man till you die. But attraction is attraction, baby. Let's call it that. Attraction is attraction. And the way I look back at those times and I look at myself and like, oh yeah, I see why things went the way they went, because I was being too soft. I was being I was letting people walk all over me. You know what I'm saying? Let alone women. I was letting people walk all over me. And takers have no limits, man. Takers have no
At
limits.
all.
So they took whatever they could take from me. Like, oh, fuck it, he ain't gonna do shit. That's fine. Well, we'll just get him to do it and whatever, and just stay with that. But it's about having them boundaries, bro. About having boundaries. But I think I look at that stuff and I literally remember saying, yeah, I'm not gonna be. I did everything I could to be the opposite of my dad until I became older and understood what he was going through. Now, granted, I wouldn't necessarily still make the same decisions that he might have made, but I understand him more and more as I get older, as a man, as I get older. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I see what you were dealing with as a man, and understanding what women deem to find attractive. And it's like a lot of us, and I've said this to a couple friends of mine in recent months. A lot of us were raised to be men that they weren't even attracted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you raised me into this person that a woman wouldn't even find to be attractive, just so that you can, you know what I'm saying, get what you needed out of me, whatever that is at that point in time, what you thought you needed. You didn't groom me for society to be a man that would be attractive to women. You groomed me to be, I don't know, whatever you needed me to be at that time.
Emotionally.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And the one
An
thing that men,
emotional landing strip.
yeah, and men must understand this is that a woman is loyal to her emotions. So you got to be very mindful of how you move. You know, one minute she might want the spaghetti, the next minute she might want the tacos. You know, you got to be the one to say, hey, this is what we're having, type shit. You know, you keep bouncing around on emotions, you'll be all over the place. And
Yep.
that's just understanding what you're dealing with. You know, it's understanding female nature and to learn how to love that. And depending on who you end up with, you just learn how to love that. But just understand emotions is going to have her moving, up and down on things. And that's not to look at that as a negative thing. It's just understanding that's what that is. Yeah.
May I add something?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll
Go ahead.
also I'll also say this, that, and I think we can all speak to this, that we also have to keep in mind now that there are, and I think you can understand what I'm about to say, that there are a lot of women that don't know how to deal with the masculine presence, because to them it's automatically a threat because
Yep.
of the fact that, because of their upbringing,
Yep.
due to maybe not having a male around, also maybe due to trauma, which
Yep.
also leads to this other side that's not talked about, is that a lot of them present themselves as masculine as a defense mechanism, because it's, how can I put it? Because they have a deep fear of vulnerability,
Right.
still kind of trapped into those moments as a child where they felt defenseless because something may have happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going by the experience of the women that I've dealt with like that. They didn't know how to deal with a man that was telling them, like, basically somebody that was going to tell them the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody that was going to give him to, no pun intended,
Right.
give it to him raw.
Yeah. I mean.
You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
mean, to your point, Ruck. I believe that masculinity, what I believe masculinity to be, is calm, is silent. It's not loud and
yeah,
brash and just out delivering laws and shit like that. That Ike Turner type shit is not. That's not what I believe masculinity is. It's not about barking out commands and shit like that. It's like when a command needs to be made, it's said, and it's
yep,
said on time, But I'm more about just being calm and relaxed. I love my silence, you know what I'm saying? I love peace. So, but I know when it's time to make a decision for something, that leadership is when leadership is called upon, you act upon that, and it's just a role.
yep,
It's just a role that you play, and then once it's done, you can go back to being that calm, peaceful cat in the corner. That's what I like to do. I'm not here to just give you orders and tell you what to do all day, but when it comes time to give orders, whether that be from an intimate level, or if that means like creating a date, whatever that is, I'm going to be that one to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking anything. I'm going to give a statement, and you can decide if you want to join me or not. That's how I move with it. But yes, I do agree that uh, women have grown up in homes where they don't know how to manage being with a masculine presence, a masculine male. It's uncomfortable to them, to some. You know what I'm saying? And it's scary because you want to trust, but what if what I'm trusting is gonna fuck me over? And I can relate to that feeling. You know what I'm saying? We
yep.
feel that way about women. It's like, what if I commit to this? What if I commit to this girl and she's still out here, posting provocative shit and drawing unnecessary attention to herself? You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's a valid concern, especially for forever's a long time. Forever is a long fucking time. So
Yeah.
you want to be sure to iron all that shit out before you take that route, and be able to vet. Like I guess that young lady we talked about in the beginning, where she was like, men vetting for women, saying what do you bring to the table is like an insult or some shit like that. To me, that's young girl immature shit. A man that's on his purpose, that holds a stern frame, you damn right he better vet, because you don't just let anything in your diet. You know,
Hell no.
hell no. Stan,
Learned that lesson.
Jim Rome says very clearly. His mentor told him, stand guard at the door of your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, be very mindful what you let inside. Watch your diet very well. Not everybody's for you. Not everything is for you. You know what I'm saying? Says everything good to you might not be good for you, type shit. So it's like
Facts.
you do have to vet, man. But that's just that's just my thoughts on that, man. Anyway, D, man, I appreciate you. I did not anticipate this week having this much fun doing these podcasts. Say this one and the one previous, but it's just it makes you want to do more. That's for sure. But
Oh, for sure.
is there anything else that you wanted to add to the show before we closed out?
Once again, I guess once again, keep in mind that this. Well, you know what? I can only speak for myself, but once again, I know my brother. I know that this does not come from a place of. It's more about just trying to push us forward together, as a community, because right now everything is in place to set us apart.
Yeah.
Everything, everything.
Yeah.
And as I've already said, and I'm gonna keep saying this shit, right now is not the time for that. For this bickering going back and forth, but there's no solution. There's nothing that's pushing us together. And the one person that seemed to try to push everyone together, although he had his way of going about it. Saying his name is very divisive, but I don't mind it. Kevin Samuels,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, we're long story short, we're better together than apart.
Right. And I'll say this, man. As far as like anybody having an issue with the content, it's all perspective. Understand that what's shared on here is merely perspectives, and either you agree with them or you don't. And it's either the truth to you or it's nonsense. And if it's the truth, why be upset? If it's nonsense, why be upset? But
Facts.
I'm just here having fun with my brother and just shooting shit like we commonly do. I mean, we do this on a normal. It just happened to be like recorded now, but we tend to have these type of thought-provoking conversations just on a day-to-day basis or whenever time permits within our schedule. But best believe I'm still gonna keep the language in which I speak about said things. I stand by what I believe in, and that's just the way it'll be. And Ruck is the same way. So if you love the shit, keep playing it. If you don't like it, change the channel. Anyway, I'm Romy Mac. This is D, and we out. Peace.
All right, take care.